This week on Q&J, Happy Halloween! Q and J. Hey everyone, welcome to another Q&J. As always, my name is Jay, and it's Halloween today. So I figured no better way than to do this Q&J with a mask on. I'm silly. It's gonna get really hot in here, but it's okay. Might as well do it. You know what? I bought this costume. Might as well wear it. So today we'll be going over the last week's comments. Now there weren't as many as usual because I put it up a little bit later than I normally do, but it's okay, and we'll J some Qs today, and it's Happy Halloween to everyone. So hopefully you're out trick-or-treating by this point. By the time this video's up, trick-or-treating with your kids or by yourself or having some fun. Having fun. Or giving candy to kids as well. I will be giving candy to kids tonight. I love doing it. And my goal is to keep Rubik under check, because Rubik is not a big fan of Halloween. He doesn't like masks. No, doesn't like them at all. So it's okay. So let's get to Q and J. Time to J some Qs. So the first comment, I'll use my broken computer for this because I'm rendering a video right now. It says, hey Jay, I got into the hobby earlier in this year, and I just want to say your videos have been a huge help. This is from Creepy Blue Eyes. Thank you very much, Creepy Blue Eyes. I recently made a tutorial for Creepy Blue Eyes in the Warp for red scorpions, especially with the painting side of things. I know you were busy, but I was wondering if you could do a tutorial on red scorpions. Alright, well since your comment, I have actually made a video in the Warp for red scorpions, so there you go. You're welcome, Creepy Blue Eyes. No problem. And then next one, Ryan Chippas says, Jay, will you eventually let viewers play with you on Let's Play with Jay? Yes. In fact, I've been talking with my old friend, some friends of mine, and I'm trying to figure out a way. Now, I know Owen used to do this with his live show, and I've been emailing him today about that, because I want to maybe start doing a live show or something like that, because I want to involve the viewers with my Let's Play with Jays. And that would actually make it a lot of fun, because I know Owen had a really awesome time, and viewers really liked it when he worked at Mini Wargaming. I apologize if my voice is muffled, by the way, due to the mask, but I gotta do it this way. So, yeah, Owen had a great time playing with viewers, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. So I'm gonna figure out a way. I know you people are gonna have to friend me or something like that on Steam, but yeah, I think it's actually quite possible in the future when we can play games like any of these, you know, the Warhammer 40k based games. You know, we can play multiplayers. It'd be a lot of fun. I'm not very good, but it's okay. You know, it's not Jay beats you. It's Let's Play with Jay. Jay will probably die soon, but it happens. Yes, so great suggestion, Ryan Chippas. And yes, I do eventually want to incorporate you guys in my Let's Play with Jay and make it a really good, fun game, you know, and make it, you know, interactive. That's my goal. It's really hard to read the comments with this mask on. I might take it off eventually. We'll see. Jesper Larson says, hey Jay, good to see you're doing Q&J again. It is good to be doing Q&J again. You have told us that you have used Fnatic Army Painter. My question for you is, would you use that again, or find a wash from GW to do the job? I have close to 1200 Bureau Guard, 250 are painted, and finished using Army Painter Alcadians. I'm working on 400 Steel Legion at the moment, and do not know yet what to use, washes or Army Painter. What would you use? Well, essentially, my recommendation for you is, it depends on what standard you're going to. If you want to use just, you know, mid-tone colors and a single shade, which will go over the entire miniature, use the Army Painter dips. I love the Army Painter dips. I've used them for several of my armies. I use them primarily for my Dark Angel Green, all my Green Marines for my Dark Angels army were painted using dips, and all of my, I shouldn't spoil it, but a second army, which I will be working on next month as well, will be using dips. So I just use the midtones and then dip them, and it provides a great varnish, and it dips and it covers the entire miniature with the same shading. And then on top of that, when you varnish over to get the applied effect that you want, such as matte or satin varnish, you know, appearance, essentially you're double varnishing it. So the miniatures are really safe, they're really protected, and it's a great job. That being said, if you want to go to a slightly higher standard, you know, not just min tabletop, I'd recommend individual dips. So that way each color gets its own attention. So you can do a base coat for each color, the appropriate shade for each color, and then highlight up, and so forth. So that's basically the answer. Would I use dips again? Absolutely. They're a great product. They're just a little sticky. But if you're going to a slightly higher standard for your guys, go with individual shades. If you want to save some time, dips. Hope it answers your question. That was from Jesper Larson, by the way. Jesper Larson. Benislav. Benislav says, Jay, from my experience, I have the Enchanted Astra Militarum Codex on my iPad. Enhanced? Sorry, not Enchanted. It's hard to read with these things on. Enhanced. I like the enhanced versions of the Codexes. And they did update it when 7th edition came out. For example, they added Demonology as one of the psychic power schools. Yeah, I saw that too. Exactly, that's what I heard, that they updated themselves. So it's really cool. So they have at least that going for them. I think that if enough people will eventually be getting these codices, there might be not a need for an FAQ in the future if ambiguous rules and whatnot can just be patched into the regular codices. That'd be a great idea. Exactly. Great, great comment, Benislav. Also, on the topic of Space Marine supplements, I would like to see Minotaurs. Minotaurs would actually be really cool. The only problem is with Minotaurs is I'd have the entire song by Tobuscus in my head with a Minotaur. Minotaur with a Minotaur, you know. Yeah. How do you kill a mini Minotaur? Halloween. It's okay. So, next one. Nurgle's Grin. Nurgle's Grin says, thanks for answering my question. No problem, Nurgle's Grin. About the Grey Knights, Terminators, versus other Terminators. You came up with some good points that kind of get overlooked. Exactly. You know what? They're weak against other Terminators, but they're still just as strong. They're very strong against most other things. In fact, arguably stronger against certain things. If you want to instant kill some higher toughness things, they're really good. Yep. Silent 82 Hill says, hello Jay. I was watching your videos in many months. This is my first post. I will play 1,000 points plus 300 points allies game soon. I was thinking of Grey Knights and Dark Angel allies. Good combination of armies. So I'm thinking about Librarian Terminator Armor as my army HQ. Great suggestion. That's actually my favorite HQ of the Grey Knights right now is a Librarian, level 3. Give him the book that teaches him another one. It's awesome. The Demon, what's it called? Demonis? Liber Demonica? Dominus Liber Demonica. Yep. With 5 Paladins in a Land Raider Redeemer. Good choice. They'll take a great, a Dread Knight. Great choice. Personal Teleporter Hammer and Heavy Side Cannon. Either Heavy Side Cannon or the Heavy Incinerator. Both great choices. In fact, a lot of people are running them with both. But if you're playing a low-cost game, just choose whatever your opponent's kind of, you know, playing against Hordes, Flamer, Heavy Side Cannon otherwise. Both are really good choices. My allies are Vindicator Assassin. Can't go wrong with that at all. You need some long-range firepower. And a squad of Dark Angel Devastators. What do you think about that? Good. Great choice. I don't know what the rules are for allies, but typically you do need to bring an HQ and troops for an allied detachment. But not bad. The idea is Grey Knights will move as close as they can and kill as many units as they can, allies in the field. Exactly. Basically, and cheers from Norway, cheers from Canada. This is from Silent 82 Hill. So Silent 82 Hill, I think it's a quite sound idea. Basically, you're going to use the Dark Angels as a long-range firepower as well as the Vindicator Assassin to fix the long-range firepower problems of the Grey Knights. Grey Knights are not very good from a long range, very from a short range. So, great idea. And I wish you luck. Let me know how it goes, for sure. I'm very interested. Lord Craigo says, greetings, Jay from Essex. Essex County, I'm guessing, in England. Hope all is well. I just want to know your opinion about the dislike some players have for the Ultramarines, as they are the poster boys for the Space Marines. Maybe GW themselves. I'd argue GW themselves as well. Do you feel the dislike is deserved just because GW uses them like this, and do you think other races such as the Orcs or Tau would get the same hate if they were the poster child? Depends. I wouldn't think Orcs. I don't think Orcs because, alright, the problem is with the Ultramarines. Now, I don't have any hatred towards the Ultramarines. But the problem is, GW kind of treats the Ultramarines as the preferred child. You know, and it's kind of like if I almost describe it as if you have 5 kids and you really do give the favoritism to one, that's the Ultramarines. They can do no wrong. They're the best, they're the good guys, they're the best of the best of the best of the best. And they're always really good. They're always a solid Codex. They make sure that they treat them with respect. And it's a positive feedback loop. Because they give them so much love, the army gets so much love. People want to play Ultramarines. They look great. They're everywhere people look for Games Workshop. They're there. And they want to buy more. So they buy more, and then GW's like, oh, Ultramarines are very popular. Let's give them more love. And it's just this positive cycle. And so forth. You know, I personally don't have any hatred towards them. They kind of get a lot of hate for that reason. Also because they're the most played. So people tend to see them as not very original, you know? They call them Smurfs, but to each his own on it. You know, I don't think Orcs, but Tau would. Tau do have hatred now. In fact, Tau are one of the more disliked races, because in 7th edition, even 6th edition, Tau are really powerful. So, yeah, I do see that could happen. That's a problem, because it's essentially GW is giving all the love to the Ultramarines and no love to some other armies, and that's why people end up not liking them. Well, that's one of the reasons. There's a few other reasons, but so very good question. Very good thing, makes me think about it. So very, very good question, Lord Craig. Thank you very much for your comment and your question. Gabe Vapors. So, and also people, leave comments in the comment section down below what you think about the, you know, of why. But I think Orcs, I don't think it would happen for Orcs as much, because Orcs tend to be one of the more fun races, and people really like Orcs. They're always kind of a fan favorite. You know, they're like the people's champion would be the Orcs, versus, you know, the preferred child would be Ultramarines. Gabe Vapors. Hey Gabe. Thank you, Jay, for your video reply to my questions. No problem, Gabe Vapors. The answer for the pickle I was in was, drumrolls, Orcs. Wow, excellent. I'm glad you chose Orcs. I love Orcs. I just spent a whole month painting 1,000 points of Orcs, and I'm going to show off my army tomorrow in a video. And in the end, it wasn't, my army size wasn't actually as high as I thought it would be. But then I thought, well, it makes sense, because I don't have any large models. I only have, you know, my most expensive model is Gostel Thraka, and I think it's like 200-something points. Not very expensive, so... Oh no, I have a Morkanaut, who's almost 300. But besides that, I really don't run heavy, you know, expensive models. So I just have a lot of them. And you'll see my army tomorrow. They're just too much fun to ignore. I agree. I happen to notice that your gaming table isn't a one-piece field. Nope, it's the modular pieces from, it's called the Citadel Realm of Battle table. There's 2 versions. There's the field version, and recently, in the last few months, they put up a new version. I think it was about 3.5 months ago. They put up a new version, which is a city version, where it's modular game pieces that you can move into various conformations. I would also like to do the same thing, because I think I could make the field more random just by rotating, and moving the pieces in different orders. Was this the thought behind your table? And if so, what challenges are there to the design? I.e. edges containing hills that have a drop. Exactly, that's pretty much it, is that you can't put them in certain conformations, because all of a sudden the hill would just go, and you can do that if you want, it just doesn't make any sense. You got to keep the hills either together, so that limits the number of permutations, or in the corners. Separate, but they're in the corners. But that's it. But it's a beautiful table. I highly recommend it. If you have the money, I love it. I personally prefer the older Citadel Realm of Battle table, the one I have, as opposed to the newer City one, because the City one is really, really busy, and it looks like the dice would get caught a lot of times in the streets, because there's a lot of divots, but that's my opinion. But I'm eventually going to want to pick it up too, because it would just make, you know, more battle reports more exciting, various terrain, and so forth. By the way, anybody wondering my costume? Star-Lord. So, yes. Jay, thanks, Jay. You're the best. Thank you very much, Gabe Vapors. You are the best as well. Benizlov again says, Jay, considering Blood Bowl, try watching some tutorial videos on YouTube by the biggest Blood Bowl personality on this net, C. Knorr. Just look him up on YouTube. I will. So C. Knorr, C-K-N-O-O-R. I will look that up after this video and see if I can learn some gameplay and some tactics for the Blood Bowl video game. That actually might be a fun game to play with viewers as well. I'm thinking that'd be cool too. Good stuff. Thank you very much for that suggestion. If you want to win a lot of games, play Wood Elves. Okay. That's not something you usually hear every day. If you want to win a lot of games, play Wood Elves. They don't get, actually they got recently some love from Games Workshop, but they went years without getting love. Role-playing game says, hey Jay, first time commenting. Well, welcome to the commenting role-playing game. I think if I have a bad memory. I subscribed for the Miniature Painting 101. Those videos have really helped me painting it. Thank you very much. No problem. And I recently decided to check out your other channel content. So far, loving the Painting with Jay. That's great. Thank you very much. But my question is about White Dwarf Weekly. A lot of long-time 40k players I talk to say White Dwarf is trash garbage. Okay? And they never really give much context as to why. I've been trying to buy it every week and review them. Shamelessly plug over. No problem. So everyone go check out, if you want to see some White Dwarf reviews, check out Roll, R-O-L-L, not R-O-L-E, so R-O-L-L, playing game. And so far, I'm really loving them. What do you think about the White Dwarf Weekly? Alright, so here's what I think about the White Dwarf Weekly. Actually, they're not bad. You know what? If there was a subscription, I'd probably subscribe. I probably would. Because it does give a preview. Because the new system that GW has been trying to do is weekly releases throughout a month. And they're kind of the preview. So you get to read them, they're not bad. They're not a badly written magazine in my opinion. The thing is about a lot of the White Dwarfs is that they're designed so that, you get the information a week earlier than everyone else. But then after that, after the Codex comes out, they don't serve much of a purpose in the long run, because then you have all the rules. But they're not bad, in my opinion. I don't personally, I know some people don't like them because they don't contain a lot of information. And since going weekly, they contain even less information because they are weekly, But they're not bad, and they're not that expensive. It depends on where you are, obviously, but yeah. The reason, as I said, the number one thing people think about them is that they don't contain a lot of information. They don't contain a lot of stuff, and they're, it can get expensive if you're paying weekly. But if you do like them, nothing wrong with that. So thank you very much for your comment. Role-playing game. And if people want to see some role-playing game reviews on the new White Dwarf, go to check out Role-Playing Game channel. R-O-L-L, not R-O-L-E. But yeah, as I said, it just depends. They can be pretty expensive for what you get. They do have some nice pictures, and they have some mention about battles. But that's cool. And a lot of the time, as I said, like when the Morkanaut came out, they released the rules a week early. Sometimes with the Dark Eldar as well. Certain Dark Eldar Codex rules got released early in the White Dwarf, so this gives you a cool little preview of the rules. Jesper Larson says, "Hey Jay, Iceland, OG, Greenland was named by the Vikings." Iceland, OG, Greenland was named by the Vikings. Oh, okay. The Viking king wanted people to move to Greenland, not to Iceland. So he named them so people from Scandinavia would want to go to Greenland instead of Iceland. Sounds like an interesting strategy. Interesting. Very cool fact. I think they mentioned that in the Mighty Ducks Part 2. If I remember correctly. Maybe it was the Mighty Ducks Part 2. But thank you very much for your post. That adds just a funny thing, Jesper Larson. So now we know. Greenland and Iceland. Misnamed. Don't believe the king. Dan Byrne. Dan Byrne. I think his name's Byrne. Hey Byrne. Hi Jay. Could you please describe the use of a wet palette? Why, when, and how? I have heard of such an overworldly thing, but know nothing about it. Thanks, Jay. Sorry, no, thanks, Q. So Dan Byrne, a wet palette is essentially a palette that has a material on it which maintains wetness of the paint. The only company that I know that makes one that I see a lot in stores is by Privateer Press. There's a P3 wet palette, and there's also many tutorials online of how to make your own using like paraffin paper or something like that. There's many tutorials. If you just type in how to make a wet palette on YouTube, there's actually many great tutorials on how to do it. The reason to make a wet palette is if you are someone that likes to mix paints. That's where these things really shine, is if you like to mix paints. If you like to thin them down, or if you like to mix them with other colors to create your own colors while doing several highlights up, or blending. Now, wet palettes are really shining because when you mix paints, it's just that perfect combination that you like, and it's sometimes hard to replicate again and again and again. And what wet palettes do is they maintain the wetness of the paint for long periods of time, so that you can literally shut your wet palette and it will maintain the paint and it'll keep it wet for 24 hours, 48 hours. Some people have it like for a week, depending on people's stories. And that way you can use the paint until it's completely consumed. Versus if you use a normal palette, you mix the paints, and after a few minutes you're already dealing with dry paint. So a wet palette really, really shines when you're mixing paints, or if you like to thin down your paints and you want to maintain the paint over a long period of time. If you're painting a lot of miniatures over a couple days, for example, or you just want to keep using the same colors over and over again, wet palettes are awesome. I do have a wet palette. I just have never used it. I really should make a miniature painting 101 episode about it. But whenever I mix paints, that's the thing. Like, they dry out and you're like, oh, and then it's hard to replicate sometimes. So that's when they shine. That's it, essentially. And wet palette, that's why it's called wet palette, is it just keeps the paint wet and not dry for a long period of time. As I said, if you want a cheap wet palette, you can either make your own, or the Privateer Press P3 wet palette, and has refills for it as well, isn't very expensive. So I think Army Painter might make one too. I might be wrong. There's probably other companies that make great wet palettes as well. Johnny Torrance says, thanks for answering my questions, Jay. I hope you do a how-to battle report 101 tutorial sometimes. I was actually going to do that sometime. In the near future, I'm going to make a video. I'm going to make a series, I think, called like how to make a painting tutorial, how to make a battle report, and to show how I do it. You know, obviously it's how to make, you know, my style, but it'd be cool. It'd be really cool to show you about how we do it. And that's essentially, like, I do it the very same way as Mini Wargaming, so you'd actually, well, Mini Wargaming also shows how they do it as well. But it'd be cool just so you guys know how we do our videos, you know, and then I can show like how I edit videos, how I create someone asked last week about how to create the bar that says, you know, the score on battle reports. Very good idea, Johnny Torrance. And I hope that, I hope I can show it in the near future. It'd be a good video, you know, so. My group and I are interested in making battle reports, but I'm limited on my Photoshop video editing skills. That's the thing, and the way that we film the battle reports really doesn't take much editing. Really doesn't. You'd be surprised. You know, I use Photoshop to create my titles and my scoring system at the top. But besides that, there's very, very little editing. I usually just literally film my entire battle report, put it into my editing software, and then I insert the, you know, like my intro, and then I just insert the turns, and that's pretty much it. So, and then I add my music. So I'll show that in the future. I think my video card can capture it, so, or my capturing card can video it. Yes. But thank you very much for the suggestion, Johnny Torrance. I'll put that down on my list of stuff to make. Rots Knots says, Windows key plus P. Hold Windows key. You can change your monitor settings, set it to projector only, and I'm fairly sure the display will only show on your monitor. Yes, I was having a problem connecting my, for those who don't know, I was having a problem connecting my broken laptop here to my monitor, and it just wouldn't recognize it for some reason. But eventually I did hit Windows P, and I was able to just shift enough times that it was able to somehow get it working. So, but thank you very much for your comment, Rots Knots. Thomas Whittle says, hey Jay, love your videos, and the intro was excellent. Did you say you don't have the Grey Knight data cards? No, I don't. My local store still has a set. If you don't let me know, and they will be in the mail for you. My local store still has a set. If you don't, let me know, and they will be in the mail. Oh, thank you. Actually, Thomas Whittle, I don't have them. So if you want to mail them to me, that'd be awesome. I would love that. Thank you very much. I'm thinking of freaking crazy that GW made them limited edition. Exactly. Why did they make them limited edition? They sold out so quickly at my store. Maybe my store just doesn't get many. Your videos and commitment is excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Thomas Whittle. So please contact me. I'd love it if you could ship them to me. That would be very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Sean Krause says, "Hey Jay, great videos and keep up the great work. I've been watching a lot of your videos lately and I've been disabling my ad blocker to help you keep your videos going." Thank you very much. You know what? As I said, no pressure. If you have ad blockers going, go for it. I'm not going to be upset, but I appreciate any income I get from my videos. Just that. My question for you is, I am planning on Imperial Fists, and I was wondering what would be a good rounding point for the army. A second Land Raider, Storm Raven, or Centurion Devastator Squad? Okay, so second Land Raider. Because Land Raiders right now in 7th edition are really good. Storm Raven, nothing wrong with this. See, all three could be viable depending on how you want. Let's see your list. So Lysander, solid choice. 5 Stern Guard, with Kami Melta and Termes, with hammers and shield. Not in a drop pod, I'm guessing? Probably in a drop pod, I'd recommend. And troops, 2x10 man tactical with missiles, grav guns, Razorback, Land Raider with multi-melta and Vindi. Thanks. Alright, well it depends. For your particular list, I wouldn't recommend, so far based on that list, I wouldn't recommend a Land Raider. Because a Land Raider makes a solid, you know, you have nothing really to transport in that Land Raider. I'd recommend a drop pod for your Stern Guard squad. I wouldn't recommend a Land Raider. And I would actually recommend, probably to those three, Centurion Devastator squad. Yeah. Storm Raven is great too. A Storm Raven is a solid choice. You know, a Storm Raven is solid. Right? It's a flyer. If you want to run a flyer, go ahead. Storm Ravens are amazing. Give them all the upgrades. They will kick anything's butt. But it doesn't seem to me like you have anything in that list that really needs the Storm Raven for transport or the Land Raider. I'd actually recommend the Centurion squad, because the Centurion squad is an entity into itself. You really don't need anything to bring it and make it, you know, more viable. I actually recommend the Centurion Devastator squad, because grav weapons are insane against most things. You know, especially running against a lot of monstrous creatures. I recommend a Centurion Devastator squad. Yeah. But thank you very much for your comment. And yes, any of the three is a good choice. But the Land Raider, I just don't see a need for it. And same with the flyer. If you have other things you really want to transport as well at the same time, you can go with the flyer. Plus, flyers are good on their own as well. It depends on your meta. But Centurions are pretty much good in most situations. Give them the grav amp. They rip apart anything to shreds. Oh. House of Geek says, "Hey Jay, always good fun watching your Q&Js. Keep them up. Thank you very much. From what I've noticed, you've been into 40k for some time. My question is, are you interested in 30k? Heresy, for example. If so, what's your legion of choice?" Ooh. Sons of Horus. That'd be a fun legion. Sons of Horus. The models are brilliant. For 30k stuff, the models are amazing from Forgeworld. Yeah, I'm kind of interested in it, but I'm focusing more on 40k. I haven't really gotten a chance to read the rules over 30k, but it's pretty cool stuff. Legion. Sons of Horus. Because they just got to deal with Horus. That's pretty awesome, you know. Sergeant Harker says, "Didn't expect Q&J to start with a pop song reference. Neat. I'm glad you picked it up." Also, before I start my questions, something interesting with Blood Angels. I wanted to start by playing the Blood Angels and have several things of theirs. I used a Sanguinary Priest as an apothecary for a while. I used a Furiosa Dread as an Ironclad, and then had guys with Blood Angel shoulder pads. And that, in part, why I went with the Death Watch color scheme. That makes sense. But the reason I never went full on Blood Angels, because I'm colorblind and I have a big issues with red. that's a viable answer as well. So sadly, an army I would really like to have played, but I can't really see. Thanks, eyes. Yeah. I seem to have a few issues with color. Low color perception being one of them. That's one, you know. Yeah. Anyway, what's your opinion on themed lists? I don't really do a themed army. My Marines are painted as a Death Watch because I easily paint them. You know, yeah. Sorry, that's just some of these questions. But themed armies, I actually really like them. They don't seem to be the most competitive, but they're really awesome. And that's the thing with me. I don't play in a competitive environment mostly. I mostly play for fun. And themed armies are actually typically really fun because they have a theme behind them. And there's usually, the unifying theme makes it more fun to play because you can almost imagine how the battle would go on in your head. And it's a lot of fun to put these themed armies together. And you kind of ignore what's the most competitive option. You can still play with competitive options, but the most competitive options are usually a hybrid of themed lists. It's not usually one perfect theme. So going as a themed list, you're typically not going to get the most competitive list unless you're playing Eldar. Eldar themed lists can still be really, really, really scary. Wraith themed lists, Bike themed lists are still scary and competitive and themed. And if they paint them accordingly, awesome stuff. You know, nothing wrong with that. I give nothing but props to people who build themed lists. I love my Walker theme, but not like a, you know, yeah. Some people I know ask if I did these army paint schemes for thematic reasons. Some of my friends ask if I Death Watch paint scheme because I run into Xenos armies. That makes sense. But they aren't my favorite. And I have Sergeant Harker in my army. That's good. I'm glad you have Sergeant Harker because that's your name. Despite him being a Catachan guardsman, he looks itself doesn't bother me. That's cool. So thank you very much for your comments, Sergeant Harker. As always, you always leave comments on my videos, and I really appreciate that. And I really do like theme lists. They're pretty cool, and they're usually more fun. And that's why I like. I'm not a competitive, you know, win at all cost player. Attaboy, 94, says, hey Jay, how do you get into miniature wargaming? And by the way, how old are you? I think about 35. Was it even near? So, the running gag is I cannot divulge my age. Unfortunately, I cannot divulge my age because that's a long story. So I can't say my age. You're kind of close. Yeah. So 35, good guess, I'd say, but can't say my age. And how do you get into? How did you get into miniature wargaming? I think is your question. I got into miniature wargaming when I was young, back in Rogue Trader days, while I was younger. And my good friend Sean just started playing Warhammer 40k, and he introduced me to it. He played Ultramarines, of course, and I played Orcs. And he showed me like all the miniatures for Orcs. I instantly fell in love with Orcs, and that's how I got in. And then I took some time off between 3rd and 4th, and came back late in 4th, early in 5th, when I had more time to dedicate myself to the hobby. When I was younger in Rogue Trader, I did it for years, and then and now I'm addicted. So that's about it. So friends, and my friend Andy actually helped get me back into miniature wargaming. So it was kind of fun. He's been in a bunch of my battle reports. So he's the reason why he helped me get back into the addiction of miniature wargaming. But thank you very much for your question, attaboy. Con S says, are you totally addicted to base? I think so. I'm all about the base. No treble. No treble. Kevin Shelley says, glad you liked the suggestion of Blood Bowl. Yeah, it's a great suggestion, Kevin Shelley. It's a fun game. Unfortunately, it's the only GW-related gaming I've been doing lately due to my involvement in a haunted house. Very cool stuff. I'm hoping to get back into 40k after Halloween. Great stuff. I know I need a Psyker for my Dark Angels. Do you recommend Ezekiel or a level 2 generic librarian if the latter would be to kit him out? Both are good. Depends on what you want to go for. Ezekiel has his own cool psychic power, and it's a lot of fun to use. So if you want to go for that, go Ezekiel. You can't really go wrong. Level 2 Librarian versus Ezekiel. They're not, neither one are very expensive. They're almost the same squishability. If you want just that extra Ezekiel power, go Ezekiel. But either one, they're both good. If you want a Psyker and Librarian, they're pretty much your only two choices. Ezekiel, though, does have more benefits. I believe he gives a benefit to... The reason why we go Ezekiel is because he has good armor save as well. And I believe... I don't have my Codex in front of me. Shoot. I believe he gives a benefit to anybody around him. He gives that invul, or he gives something around, if I remember correctly. So, if you have the choice, I'd say actually Ezekiel, now that I think about it. But a level 2 librarian is not a bad choice by any means. Percy Hudson says, "Hey Jay, I really enjoy your videos, from the painting tutorials to the bat reps to the talks. Thank you. I subscribe to your channel because I have heavy interest in orcs. I'm finally getting to start my orc army, and I'm confused about a rule." Okay, let's talk about the rule. So Percy Hudson says, the Waaagh rule says that all models with the Here We Go rule can run and charge. My question is whether or not Turbo Boost counts as running for the purposes of the Waaagh. As I think a group of non-bikers would be incredible if they could cut 2 feet before the charge. That seems unreasonable, but awesome. I was wondering your thoughts on the matter. That's a really good question. I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I think it's just run. I think it's, most people, I've seen people bring that up before, and when most people play it's because it says specifically the word run. And it doesn't mention Turbo Boost. And in 7th edition Codices, I find that the wording is quite deliberate. And run is a random distance. Turbo Boost is a full 12 inches. So my argument is no. Now, I could be wrong. I could be very much wrong. Please leave a comment in the comment section down below if you disagree with me. But to my knowledge, it specifically says run. If it was meant for Turbo Boost, it would say run and or Turbo Boost. And then assault. You know, I think the wording is quite deliberate in 7th edition, so I don't think so. That would be really broken if so. That would be pretty amazing, because you move 12, Turbo Boost an additional 12, or, yeah, Turbo Boost an additional 12, and then assault. That'd be pretty crazy. Yeah. Sebastian Hailstrom says, "Hi Jay, continuing on my comment about the Riptide being elite, I was wondering if you've seen the Yvraaha and the Yvrana battlesuits from Forgeworld. They are Riptide-sized battlesuits, but in fast attack and heavy support respectively." Yes, I have seen them. I love them. If I collected Tau, I would be all over Forgeworld, because to me the Forgeworld suits are beautiful, the rules are cool, and they just look awesome. They really look awesome. They're just awesome looking models. And I've seen both of them because they released one of them last week or the week before, recently. But yeah, they're very cool. And so you basically have these heavy hitting suits in elite, fast attack, and heavy support choices. And you can just fill your army with them if they allow Imperial armor. Very cool stuff. And they're all really nasty. They all have some really good guns. So yes, thank you very much for your comment, Sebastian Hailstrom. But yes, they're amazing. Master Dwaylen says, "Hey Jay, thank you for answering my comment about the return of Painting with Jay. Blog, yes. It feels so good that you have read my comment before the return of the series." Yep. "Of course, I've seen all the new episodes, and during them, I have painted my Dark Eldar, Menoth, and Space Marine miniatures. Awesome. Keep up the good work, mate. My question for the episode is, what do you think, how many, and what kind of terrain is optimal for a 15 to 2,000 points Warhammer 40k battle on a 5x5 table? Thanks and greetings." So what do you think? How many and what kind of terrain? Alright, for most 40k, if you're doing the theme of 40k, most people like apocalyptic terrain, ruins. I personally like a balance of terrain. I like different types of terrain. Obviously ruins, because ruins are the foundation of the feel to me for 40k. It's very it's like very much in the future, everything's broken, so ruins for me are number one. But I also like some variation in types of terrain, so that maybe some forest, some ruins, mix up the cover saves. Not everything is just 4 up. Hills to block some line of sight, so you want some line of sight blocking terrain, such as hills, some forest, and some ruins. How much exactly? Depends on the size, but I'd recommend at least a quarter of the table. So 6 square feet of, at least 6 square feet of terrain. That'd be cool. The more terrain, I should really get more terrain. I just got some terrain last week, obviously, from Greenleaf Terrain, and it looks amazing. But the more terrain, the more interesting it is. I do find the tactics change a lot. The more terrain, the more interesting the tactics become, because it's not just look at each other and fire. There's a lot more maneuverability, a lot more shooting. So the more terrain, the better. So I'd say maybe like 6 to 8 square feet. Make a third of the table terrain. That'd be kind of fun, depending on what list you're running. So I hope that answers. That's just my opinion, but I think that'd be pretty cool. Lewis James 451 says, "Hi Jay, one of my friends, who collects Eldar, has a very competitive army, and as an Orc player, I tend to get tabled quite a lot. I know the feeling. However, I was thinking of starting a new army, so what do you think would be the best army against Eldar?" Eldar. The best army against Eldar is Eldar, because Eldar against Eldar is just a hilarious bloodbath. Most other armies can fight Eldar. Tau can fight Eldar. Space Marines can fight Eldar. And Imperial Guard, depending on your list, can really fight Eldar. Essentially, to fight Eldar, you need to have you need to go shooting with them. You don't want to try to get a salty with them. You want to shoot them down dead. So you need long-range firepower. And long-range firepower is specialized Space Marines, Tau, and Imperial Guard. If you're not wanting to go Eldar as well and go Eldar against Eldar. Because the problem is with assaulty lists against Eldar is that most of the really assaulty lists for Eldar are insanely good at assault, and they'll destroy you. Or they're shooting Eldar lists, and they're very maneuverable, so you won't catch them ever. You know, if you go near them, they'll disperse and just move away from you, because they can move, run, and still shoot you. You know, it's really powerful. So essentially, you need to catch them with firepower. Is my highest recommendation. So, Space Marine shooty heavy lists, Tau, Imperial Guard. The 3 strongest shooting armies. Even Necrons could. Necrons can be competitive against Eldar as well, because they have a lot of shooting too. But the problem is with Necrons right now is I think Necrons are going to get a new Codex soon, so it may not be worth starting at the moment. But Necrons as well can go can do some crude shooting against Eldar as well. But you need to essentially, if you want to go solely against Eldar, you got to focus on shooting. So no Orcs, no Tyranids. Yeah. You know, those are my thoughts. Dark Eldar could go with Eldar as well. Dark Eldar could go toe-to-toe with Eldar as well, depending on your lists. So, any shooting thing, Dark Eldar as well, I'd include. So just look it up. Look at the armies that are really shooty heavy, and decide amongst them, whichever one, you know, looks the best to you. Most of them have had new codices. Space Marines are 6th edition, Dark Eldar 7th edition, Tau are 6th edition, so they're not going to get codices anytime soon. Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum are 6th edition as well. So. Gray Nugget says, "Jay, I am wanting to paint my Moloch and was wondering if there was a way to paint phlegm coming out of its mouth. Like it was roaring and phlegm was spraying out everywhere. Hope you can help, thanks." I have seen similar tutorials with slime or fluids coming out of the mouth, but they're made using like melting. They're using melting techniques. Those are the only ones that come off the top of my mind. Like if you want it to look like phlegm's coming out of the mouth, if you want the actual pieces of phlegm, that's what I'm referring to. People have done similar things with slime and phlegm using, as I said, melting techniques. And you can add like melted plastic onto these parts, and it has that liquid appearance. Otherwise, there'd probably be some mediums. I'd have to think about that, but there'd probably be some mediums that you can add to paint to make it more slimy. Let me think about it. Yeah, I have to think about that question. Maybe I'll bring it up next week, but I'm going to look it up in the meantime. There's got to be some mediums that you can add, like that make a slimy appearance, and that would be good for phlegm as well, depending if you want to go like solid phlegm or like slimy phlegm. Yeah, there's got to be some slime mediums that you can add to paint, so you add your own color, and it would come out as a slimy appearance for phlegm. I hope that helps. I'm sorry, I don't usually paint phlegm on my models, but off the top of my head, there's got to be some mediums, or I've seen similar things where people use melted plastic, and that's, of course, make sure to take precautions, or glue gun. A glue gun as well could be used to use for like the same thing for melting phlegm, for phlegmy stuff or slimy stuff coming out of the mouth. Glue gun would work as well. But anybody who knows any more about this, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. We can add this conversation and help out this person as much as possible. The Spawn 117 says, "Hey Jay, how are things? Things are good. How about you, The Spawn? Number one, what are your thoughts on the whole Warhammer 40k versus Star Wars debate?" To be honest, I don't really know about the Warhammer 40k versus Star Wars debate. What is the debate about? Which one's better? Which one makes more sense? I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I didn't know that there was a debate between it. So please address that, and I will definitely comment on next week's Q&J about it. Or in the meantime, I can look it up as well. But I don't know about the debate. Number two, have you played the Death Watch RPG by Fantasy Flight Games? No, I have not, and I really do want to play it. It looks really good. It's one of those games that if I ever have the opportunity, I'll definitely want to play it, for sure. But I've seen it. I've seen a bunch of other people play it. I saw it at Gen Con, and yeah, it looked really cool. But I have not played it yet. But thank you very much for your comment, Spawn 17, 117. Nurgle's Grid says, "Hey Jay, I have a small army of Salamanders that I use in small games or as allies, and I think I will be adding something for some heavy hitting firepower. What would you recommend? I have Captain, Librarian." I'd say Land Raider. Stern Guard, Assault Marines, 3 tactical squads with 2 Rhinos, Devastator squad with Razorback, Dreadnought, Land Raider, Drop Pod. Centurions. If you want to add to your Salamanders, Centurions. Looking at your list, you don't really, again, you're in a similar situation to the other guy who left a comment earlier. You don't really need a second Land Raider. A Devastator squad would be good. Another Devastator squad would never hurt. It never hurts if you just fill your list full of, heavy weapons. Centurions. They're good. If you're, depending on the list of you're running, they're really heavy hitting. And with Centurions, you can then, get a transport if you want for them. Put them in Land Raider or something. Or they're very bulky. But, yeah. For heavy hitting firepower, for the other idea, depending on your meta, maybe a Vindicator. Vindicators can be pretty heavy hitting. From a distance especially. People don't bring a lot of Vindicators these days. But a Vindicator, I really do like Vindicators against Hordes lists, or if you're playing against other Space Marines, you just drop one on them and erase a squad at a time. So a Vindicator is heavy hitting, Centurions are heavy hitting. Yeah. Or, again, same thing. If you want to bring a lot of firepower, you could bring a Storm Raven as well. Give it all the upgrades, multi-melta. It'll destroy some stuff the turn it comes in. Hope that helps. Archon Timatron. Hey, Archon Timatron. For those who don't know, if you want to see some cool videos, he kind of been working on his channel more as of late. Archon Timatron, go check him out. He has a lot of cool reviews of other gamers and stuff, but yeah, definitely good videos. Archon Timatron. So yeah, he goes, "Were you busy watching any of my Dark Eldar stuff, Jay? I was wondering what you thought of my Coven's Tactica videos so far." I've seen a couple. They've been good. So yeah, as I said, if you want to go check out some Tactica videos, go check out Archon Timatron. It's the name, you can see the thing, but Archon Timatron. Cool stuff. He's got a British accent. It's pretty cool. I like the video so far. I think I've been doing good so far. I will be playing a combo of Irian Rakarth, Grotesques, and Scarlet, Epicureans, Cavalier Warriors. Did you see my article on Frontline Gaming where I wrote about combining the 2 power from pain tables with a Monkey Alive from Covens and Codex Arm? No, I've not seen that yet. I'm going to go check that out. Archon Timatron. So he has an article on Frontline Gaming. Cool. One more question. Do you think any advice with regard to rendering? The Power Direct 10 software I use, because it was free, won't let me render into anything but AVI. I then have to convert the file to MP4, but I really get bad horizontal lines. Yeah. Can you help? I can't upload an AVI because it takes days. Use software I use and find things Adobe. I'd recommend Yes, if you have a problem with, if you think Adobe's too complex, I'd recommend actually Sony Vegas. Sony Vegas Pro, or Sony Vegas, I forget what it's called. Sony Vegas Pro, I think it's called. The Sony Vegas. It is actually the software Mini Wargaming prefers. It is it's pretty cheap. I think it's only like $60 Canadian or US for a license on it. So that'd be like 40 pounds for you, Archon Timatron. And it's very simplistic to use, very straightforward, and gives you a huge amount of rendering options. And I do find it's actually my preferred rendering software. For my longer videos, this video will be rendered using Adobe, not Adobe, sorry, using Sony Vegas. So definitely go check out Sony Vegas. For sure. And everyone, as I said, go check out my friend Archon Timatron's videos. He has great videos. He does a lot of Tactica lately. And he does a lot of Dark Eldar, obviously, because the new Dark Eldar Codex came out, and it's Archon Timatron. He does a lot. I've seen some Eldar stuff as well, but primarily Dark Eldar. So if you want to see some Dark Eldar stuff, check out Archon Timatron, for sure. And Scarredcast. Perfect back-to-back people. My other Dark Eldar friend, Scarredcast. Ouch. Sucks about your laptop. Nice to see you doing the Q&J back in. Thank you very much, Scary. And yeah, if you want to go see other... So basically, as I said, the two Dark Eldar people I'm watching their videos, Scarredcast, Archon Timatron. Scarredcast does a lot of really, really good post-turn battle reports. Really good. And he has a lot of them. Sneaky Git says, Jay, regarding your comment about fantasy not getting updates soon, I think that all the end times things coming out recently actually point towards a new edition. Oh, maybe. I've been trying to figure it out. I haven't been able to figure out this end of times things. But the Nurgle things are amazing. The models are insanely good. My guess is that they will make some huge changes to the game, possibly competitive new rules. Probably. Get rid of some armies, combine another faction. Wow, that'd be crazy. And that's why they moved towards the story forward. Yeah, because they moved the story along, in like a huge gap got filled in that storyline. So I'm very curious of what they're going to do with fantasy. I think Games Workshop knows that they want to do something big. Big and bold, and they really want to, I think, fix or reinvigorate the game. I think so, because fantasy's dying in a lot of areas. 40K is having problems in certain areas too, but fantasy especially isn't doing so well in certain places. So they really want to invigorate the game. Ethan Kelly says, Q&J, nice, thank you. Christopher Tucker says, hey Jay, are you tempted by the End Times Chaos models as a painting project? Yeah. What's it called? The giant one. The crop. I'm going to have to look it up now. It is called the Glotkin. Glotkin. It is amazing. The Glotkin looks beautiful. Like, seriously, if I had the money right now, I don't even play fantasy. I want to paint that model. When I saw the new Nurgle models, like from being a painter, it just, seriously, that's the thing about Games Workshop. They make amazing models. I don't think anybody can debate that. The Glotkin model alone. Fantasy, man. Beautiful models. I personally think Games Workshop are producing the best quality models recently. I agree. Like, to me, there's no... Other than a couple models have been hit or miss lately, like... In fantasy, everything's really looking good lately. But in 40K, Logan Grimnar's Chariot didn't really do anything for me. It looked kind of silly, like Santa's sleigh. But for fantasy, I really like the End Times model so far. Like Nagash, amazing. And now the Glotkin, anything you just can't pronounce, looks amazing. Whoa. Rhoda Fury says, hey Jay, I'm very glad to hear you going to be doing a review on Cipher. I am, actually. It will be out. I downloaded it today, and the review will probably be out on Monday, I'm guessing, because I'm going to be busy for the next couple of days. My Cipher review is on, I'm guessing Monday, but it's going to be for sure next week, for sure. I downloaded it, and I'm getting definitely a couple of read-overs I normally do before Codex review. I'm not sure it is a response to my message. It actually is. Your message combined with Scarcast's comment on one of my other things made me look up Cipher. So and for those who didn't know, Rhoda Fury actually sent me a message asking me to review it, and it was actually that inspired me to do it. I'm very glad to hear it. That aside, I'm fairly new to 40k and began with getting some orcs, roughly 500-ish points, but after reading Astra Militarum and Dark Eldar, I fell in love with both of them, and so decided to switch and bounce back and forth in buying. Though I admit I think I will focus to start on the Dark Eldar, as the Astra Militarum I plan to collect will have Assassinorum and Tempestus. Cool. Maybe Imperial Knight as an afterthought, mostly the paint and the field here and there. Yeah, I want a whole army. I really just want an Imperial Knight army. The only problem is the points. I was looking at this after my last week's video, and I realized the points for each, if you got like each Forgeworld model, it doesn't add up to anything. Like you can't get a combination that adds up to 1500 or 1850 or anything like that. It's really hard to get a points cost accordingly. So I'm going to have to figure it away. Also, I personally believe it will be the Necrons as the next army to get an update. Don't ask me why, but I just have a feeling. Okay, sorry for the long post, no problem, though I do have a question. Where would you suggest starting a Dark Eldar collection? I plan to get an Archon, of course, and a Cabalite Warriors with a mixed transport of Venom and Raiders, as I like both. However, aside from that, I am unsure. I will be thinking of theming my army and avoiding Coven stuff to start until I can field enough of good Coven or mix, just sure. I mostly play against my friend, and they play Blood Angels, Nids, Demons, and Grey Knights. A rather mixed group, but advice would be welcome from you or anyone in general. Cool. So let's go in the Games Workshop. I want to double check the box set, because to me, I thought I remember the box set being good, but I thought I had witches. Let me double check which box set. So, if you want to start a Dark Eldar army, first of all, you need Cabalite Warriors. They're my favorite of the troops choices, is Cabalite Warriors. They're the foundation of your army, the Cabalite Warriors. You don't want to go Covens, you just mentioned. Oh yeah, see, it's Witch Cults. The Cabalite, if you want to buy like just a quick box, for example, the Cabalite Sky Splinter has a Raider and a squad of Cabalite Warriors. A great transport with the foundation of your army. Great choice. For HQs, as you mentioned, an Archon, solid choice. As far as that goes, that limits, that's the foundation of your army, essentially. And then you can build in any direction you want. The fast attack is where you, as you said, you want a theme to your army, but the fast attack is really where the army excels. And you got to choose what you want to do with your fast attacks. Scourges are amazing. The more I think about them, the better they are. You give them a Dark Lance and just shoot them at your opponent. And they can score in this new edition. Well, they can score in 7th edition, 40k. You could bring bikes. Reaver jet bikes are insane now because they're Eldar jet bikes, right? So they can just turbo boost galore. Hellions, yeah. Out of the fast attacks, I would say the three things that excel to me are is obviously the jet fighter, the Reaver jet bikes, and the Scourges. To me, are the three that I'm like. The more I think about, wow. And for the heavy support choices, the Pain engines. Yeah, Chronos engines, I believe. Chronos? The ones that give 4-up feel no pain. They are amazing, and they will keep a lot of stuff alive. So that's where I recommend starting a Dark Eldar army. But the foundation of a Dark Eldar army are to me, is the Cabalite Warriors. I think they're a much stronger choice than the Witches. So if you want troops, you gotta at least bring 2 squads of troops. So you want your troops to be Cabalite Warriors, I'd recommend, and probably in a Raider or a Venom, depending on which kind of transport you want. I hope that helps. Back to comments. And thank you very much for your comment, Road of Fury. And as I said, I am doing a Cipher review for sure. It will be next week. But I like it. It's kind of a very interesting Cipher. I'm going to get the model as well. I just have to order from Games Workshop and have it shipped to Games Workshop, because otherwise it's going to be like $40 shipping or $30 shipping on a $20 model. Doesn't add up. Lord Rawl says, "Hey Jay, as an Eldar player, a lot of people ignore my point of view because my Codex is broken. Even though I run a single Serpent, 1 squad of Wraithblades, and War Walkers and Dark Reapers supported by Banshees, Dire Avengers, Swooping Hawks, and Jetbikes. Good. So my question is, do you think discriminating players based on their Codex when taking about rules or tournaments is okay or acceptable?" No. I agree. I know your point. And I feel that I do find myself, not necessarily in 40k, But in War Machine and Hordes, I find myself doing that sometimes. You discount the awesomeness of a player because of his army. And I don't know about you, but like my friend Andy, for example, he played Eldar through the good times and the bad. And they required a lot of finesse at certain times. And there were some high points in 4th edition and some really low points in 5th edition, followed by some really high points in 6th edition and 7th edition. So no, I personally don't like to discriminate players based on their army. That being said, sometimes I'd have to watch the player, but sometimes you can tell the difference between a good player and a good army. But you should never assume that it's the army that makes the player. No, I don't think so. So, you know, the thing is, I play against Eldar players every now and then, and I naturally don't think, I never ever think to myself, your advice is not good because you're an Eldar player. No. So, that's my thoughts. I don't know. No. In War Machine and Hordes, I find myself sometimes that when I see a really good player, but then he brings a broken caster like E. Haley, and I'm like, that makes it even more powerful. But I don't know. I don't discount people. No. Especially based on Codex. You know, lists, I can understand why some people do it, but codices, no, because there's huge variation in codices. And just because you're a Tau player or you're an Eldar player doesn't mean you're better or worse of a tactician. It's the individual person. So, yeah. CMD, the Dark Arts, says, hey Jay, I was wondering if you could do some rules checking with me. You know how if there's a challenge in close combat, 40k, and one side has a squad and a character, while the other is just one model who is a character. And so cannot decline the challenge. No, cannot decline. If you're one character versus a squad, you have to accept. Where does it say that the outside squad can attack? Because it says, whilst the challenge is ongoing, other models locked in combat can only allocate wounds to the models in the challenge. After all, enemy models that are locked in combat have been removed as casualties, even if the models fighting in the challenge are the closest. What a player of mine got from this is that you can only allocate wounds to the lone challenger, so you cannot hit him, but only allocate wounds. I tried to convince him otherwise. In the end, we had to settle down for a dice roll-off before we do so. Let me grab the rulebook. I'll be right back. Alright, so I just got my my rulebook, as you mentioned, and it says basically what you just mean, but let me try to explain it. So it does say that basically, if you are in a challenge against a player, right, you're playing someone and you're in a challenge with them. The two guys are in the challenge, they're obviously putting wounds against each other. If any of them are a part of a squad, so let's say a squad of Terminators is fighting another squad of Terminators from opposing armies. If their sergeants are in a combat, the wounds from the outside guys can only be allocated towards the other outside guys. Right? So the Terminators from one side will only fight the Terminators from the other side. They can't put wounds onto the guys in the challenge because they are fighting their own individual challenge. However, if one side is able to kill all the other members of the opposing army in that combat, and the only one remaining is the guy in the challenge, so let's say one entire squad kills an entire other squad and it's just the sergeant fighting the sergeant, right? It says in the rule book that they are now allowed to allocate wounds into the combat, into the challenge combat. So, to sum it up, let's say a Hive Tyrant is fighting a squad of 5 Terminators. Like this happened in a battle report I filmed recently. If the sergeant challenges the Hive Tyrant has to accept because it's the only model. And from the Hive Tyrant's perspective, all wounds have to be allocated onto the sergeant because he's in the challenge with him until he is dead. However, since there are no other models in the combat, the remainder of the squad that is not in the challenge, they have to allocate their wounds somewhere, right? Their attacks, they have to be allocated, and they can be allocated onto the one in the challenge. I hope that answers your question. So in this particular case, if that's what basically what it means when it says in that paragraph that you put in, and it's also in the rule book, so that if a squad is fighting an individual, like a monstrous creature, for example, like a Hive Tyrant or a Demon Prince, they can all allocate wounds onto that person because there are no other members in the combat to allocate attacks on. You know, but if there are other members, their attacks have to be allocated on them first. So if two squads are fighting, they each have a sergeant, like a tactical squad from Space Marines versus another tactical squad from Space Marines are fighting. Their sergeants challenge each other. All of the other members of the squad's attacks have to go on all the other members of the other squad, not the two sergeants. But once the squad has been obliterated on one side, their attacks can then go on the member inside the challenge. So it's really beneficial now. It's become extremely beneficial now to challenge these lone monstrous creatures, because if you challenge them, you know the person who's going to die first, because you can control that, and then on top of that, all your guys get to still attack. In the old 6th edition rules, basically they provided some re-rolling abilities. They were cheering section, but in the new rules, if there's no one else to attack, except for the guy in the challenge, in this new rule edition, they get to attack as well. So 5 guys against a Hive Tyrant, all of them get their attacks. I hope that answers your question. I hope it didn't sound too confusing. But thank you very much for your comment, Command the Dark Guard. Ryan Chippas says, also Jay, what is your opinion on the PDFs online of the Imperial Armor books? I don't know if that is illegal in any way. It is, unfortunately, it is illegal. But I really don't want to pay $50 a book to look one rule up for one guy. And then Command the Dark Guard says, I know what you mean, and I do agree with you, but it is illegal to do that. Exactly. I can't endorse it in any way. It is illegal. People are, you know, they buy the copies and they scan them, and I cannot endorse that in any way. It is breaking the law, right? Because it's a stolen product. And the Lads Lounge says, hey Jay, thanks for asking. We named her Kira. Kira. That's a beautiful name. Thank you very much, Lads Lounge, and congratulations on your new girl. Thanks for answering. You're an awesome guy, mate, and to reply made me laugh. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You don't have to read out next bit. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It does happen, unfortunately. So I'm not going to read it out loud. I'm going to, you know, that's unfortunate, Lads Lounge. Yeah. So, but congratulations on your new girl, and I'm very happy that you have a new baby around. So that's and Kira is a beautiful name. So Kira, middle name Lads, last name Lounge. Kira Lads Lounge. Good name, Kira Lounge. Has a nice ring to it. I respect that, and congratulations once again. So that's all the comments. So to sum it up, thank you very much, all you people out there, for leaving all your comments. I really hope I addressed them all. And yeah, leave comments in the comment section down below this video of what you thought about this one. Next time I'm not going to be in costume, but I just wanted to get my money's worth out of this costume. And thank you very much for your comments, your questions, and please feel free to add anything that on top of what I was talking about this week, and maybe correct me if I just didn't clarify this rule better. I'm never good at clarifying these rules, but yeah. So thank you so much for your comments, your questions. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for subscribing to my channel if you do so. Thank you to all you people out there. You are amazing. I hope you have a very nice, happy, safe Halloween. And yeah, until next time, this is Jay / Star Lord saying, happy painting.